One of the darkest moments in baseball has to be the infamous Seagull Incident. Even Dave Winfield's biggest fans had a hard time defending him after that. But that wasn't the only controversy in his career. Contract disputes and heated feuds followed him, making headlines just as much as his on-field performances. One of the most infamous moments came during a game against the Toronto Blue Jays when he was warming up between innings. He tossed a ball, just part of his routine, but in a freak accident, it struck and killed a seagull. It was a shocking moment, and to make matters worse, he was actually charged with animal cruelty. Of course, the charges were later dropped, but the incident stuck with him. Even today, when people talk about Winfield, the Seagull Incident always seems to come up. But if you think that was the only drama tied to Winfield's name, think again. His time with the New York Yankees was filled with tension, mostly thanks to his rocky relationship with team owner George Steinbrenner. The two simply did not get along. Steinbrenner was never shy about criticizing Winfield, especially when it came to his postseason performances. He felt Winfield wasn't living up to expectations and wasn't afraid to call him out publicly. Things got so bad that Steinbrenner reportedly even hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on him. That's how deep the feud ran. And then there were the contract disputes. Winfield signed a massive deal with the Yankees, but it led to constant battles over salary and contract details. Steinbrenner, never one to back down from a fight, frequently clashed with Winfield over money. The media picked up on it, and before long, Winfield had a reputation, not just as a star player, but as someone who could be tough to deal with. Some saw him as overly confident, maybe even a little arrogant, and his refusal to waive his no-trade clause only added to that perception. By the end of his Yankees tenure, his name was constantly floating around in trade rumors. It seemed like every other week, there was talk of him being shipped off to another team. But Winfield wasn't about to let anyone push him around. He had his contract, he had his say, and he wasn't going to just roll over because Steinbrenner wanted him gone. No matter the controversies, Winfield's influence on the game is undeniable. In 1969, he earned a full baseball scholarship to play for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. But baseball wasn't the only sport where he shined. Winfield was a two-sport athlete, excelling in both baseball and basketball. He wasn't just good, he was dominant. During the 1971-72 season, he helped lead the Gophers basketball team to a Big Ten Conference championship, a huge accomplishment for the program. In fact, it was their first outright Big Ten title in over 5 decades. That's the kind of impact Winfield had. Wherever he went, success seemed to follow. But his time on the basketball court wasn't without its drama. In the 1972-73 season, when Minnesota faced off against Ohio State, tensions boiled over into an all-out brawl. It was one of those moments that college basketball fans wouldn't forget anytime soon, and it only added to Winfield's reputation as an intense competitor. While basketball was a big part of his college career, baseball was where he truly made his mark. During the summers of 1971 and 1972, he took his talents to Alaska, playing for the Alaska Gold Panthers of Fairbanks. The level of competition was high, but Winfield thrived, proving he was more than ready for the next step. In 1972, he was named the team's MVP, a sign of things to come. Then came 1973, the year Winfield cemented himself as a future baseball star. He was named an All-American and completely dominated in the College World Series, earning MVP honors, not as a power hitter, but as a pitcher. That's right. Before he became a feared slugger in the big leagues, he was making waves on the mound. His ability to both pitch and hit at an elite level made him one of the most exciting prospects in the country. And that's when things really got interesting. When the 1973 drafts rolled around, Winfield wasn't just on baseball's radar, he was on everybody's radar. He was so talented that professional teams from 3 different sports tried to bring him aboard. The San Diego Padres selected him with the 4th overall pick in the MLB draft, intending to use him as a pitcher. But baseball wasn't the only sport that saw his potential. The Atlanta Hawks took a chance on him in the 5th round of the NBA draft, while the Utah Stars of the ABA also picked him up in the 6th round. And if that wasn't crazy enough, the Minnesota Vikings, despite the fact that Winfield had never even played college football, selected him in the 17th round of the NFL draft. That's almost unheard of. To this day, Winfield remains one of only 5 athletes to ever be drafted in 3 different professions. Even more impressively, he's one of just 3 players, along with Carter and McCarty, to be drafted by 4 different leagues. That level of raw athleticism is almost impossible to find. After all that attention from multiple sports, Winfield ultimately chose baseball, and his decision paid off in a big way. The San Diego Padres took him with the 4th overall pick in the first round of the 1973 MLB draft, a move that immediately signaled how much potential they saw in him. Not long after, Winfield signed with the Padres, and instead of being sent to the minors like most young prospects, they promoted him directly to the major leagues, a big vote of confidence. Though Winfield had been drafted as a pitcher, the Padres saw something special in his bat. His power was undeniable, and they didn't want to waste it by having him just pitch. So they moved him to the outfield, specifically to right field, where his powerful arm could still be put to use. It didn't take long for Winfield to make an impact. In his rookie season, he hit 277 over 56 games, pretty solid for someone who was making the transition from pitcher to everyday player. But that was just the beginning. Over the next several years, Winfield really started to show what he was capable of. He became a key player for the Padres, gradually developing into an all-star. His ability to hit both for power and average grew year by year, and by 1977, he earned his first all-star appearance, playing in the game at none other than Yankee Stadium. What a stage for his first big moment. Winfield's rise didn't stop there. In 1978, the Padres recognized his leadership on and off the field and made him the team captain, a huge honor that spoke to the respect he had earned from his teammates in the organization. But the best was yet to come. In 1979, he had one of the best seasons of his career. He batted an impressive .308, hit 34 home runs, and drove in 118 RBIs. Numbers like those were a clear indication of just how much Winfield had come into his own as a top-tier player in the league. After another successful season in 1980, Winfield was ready for a new chapter. He played one more season with the Padres, but after that, he became a free agent, setting the stage for his next big move in his baseball journey. In December 1980, Dave Winfield's career took a major turn when New York Yankees owner George Steinbrenner made him the highest-paid player in baseball at the time. Steinbrenner signed him to a 10-year, $23 million contract, a deal that was worth a whopping $85.1 million in today's money. However, there was a big mix-up in the negotiations. Steinbrenner mistakenly thought the deal was for $16 million, not realizing the contract included a cost-of-living clause, which caused a huge misunderstanding between him and Winfield. This led to one of the most infamous public feuds in baseball history between Winfield and Steinbrenner. Despite the drama over the contract, Winfield's talent was undeniable. He quickly became one of the top players in the game. His first year with the Yankees was solid, and his contributions were key to the team's success in 1981, when they won the American League pennant. Winfield's performance during the AL Division Series that year was impressive. He batted .350, hitting 2 doubles, a triple, and made some crucial defensive plays. It was one of his standout performances, but unfortunately, his World Series showing didn't live up to the hype. In the 6-game series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, Winfield struggled at the plate, and the Yankees lost. After getting his only hit of the series, Winfield joked, asking for the ball from the game, but Steinbrenner didn't take it as a joke and criticized him publicly, fueling their ongoing tension. Interestingly, many commentators later pointed out that Winfield's struggles in the World Series weren't that much worse than the struggles of his teammates. For example, Reggie Jackson and Greg Nettles, both key players, were injured during the series, and together they only had 1 combined RBI, the same as Winfield. The Yankees' offense in general was inconsistent, but Steinbrenner's focus on Winfield became the center of attention. Winfield didn't let it bother him too much. He came back strong in 1982, hitting 37 home runs and proving he was still one of the best players in the game. But the drama didn't end there. In August of 1983, a bizarre incident occurred during a game in Toronto that would forever be tied to Winfield's name. While warming up before the 5th inning, Winfield threw a ball that hit and killed a seagull at Toronto's Exhibition Stadium. Fans went wild, hurling insults and objects onto the field in anger. The situation escalated quickly, and Winfield was taken to a nearby police station and charged with cruelty to animals. He was released after posting a $500 bond, and the charges were dropped the following day. Despite the tension, Winfield handled it well, even returning to Toronto later that offseason to donate paintings for a charity auction that raised over $60,000. For years after that, whenever Winfield played in Toronto, fans would stand and flap their arms like wings, a reference to the Seagull Incident. On the field, Winfield continued to be one of the top players in NBL. From 1981 through 1984, he was among the most effective run producers in the league. In 1984, he had a phenomenal season, battling for the batting title with his teammate, Don Mattingly. It came down to the very last day of the season, but Mattingly edged him out by just 0.003 points. Still, Winfield finished with a remarkable 340 batting average, and despite some fans leaning toward Mattingly in the race, Winfield took it in stride. He even compared it to the competition between Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris during the 1961 home run race. But Winfield's relationship with Steinbrenner was far from smooth. In 1985, Steinbrenner made headlines by publicly criticizing Winfield, saying, "Where is Reggie Jackson? We need a Mr. October or a Mr. September. Winfield is Mr. May." This comment stung because it came after a season where Winfield had struggled in the postseason, and Steinbrenner was looking for someone to step up when it mattered most. The nickname Mr. May stuck with Winfield for years, even though many believed his postseason struggles had been exaggerated compared to those of other players on the team. As the late 1980s progressed, Steinbrenner's disdain for Winfield grew more public. He leaked false and derogatory stories about him to the press, and as the Yankees manager was pressured to bench Winfield or move him down in the batting order. Even though Winfield continued to put up great numbers, including driving in 744 RBIs between 1982 and 1988, Steinbrenner seemed intent on making life difficult for him. Winfield also earned 7 Gold Glove awards for his stellar defense in the outfield, showing just how complete a player he was, yet Steinbrenner's personal vendetta overshadowed his accomplishments. In 1989, Winfield's career took an unexpected turn. He missed the entire season due to a back injury, a major setback for a player who had been so reliable for so many years. When 1990 came around, it was the last year of his contract with the Yankees, but things didn't improve. His spring training was rough, and he was eventually relegated to being the designated hitter, at first just against left-handed pitchers. But it soon became clear that Steinbrenner had no intention of playing him regularly. The relationship between Winfield and the Yankees hit a breaking point, and a trade seemed imminent. On May 11, 1990, Winfield refused to be traded when the Yankees tried to work out a deal with the California Angels. But things took a strange turn when the Yankees management insisted on trading him for pitcher Mike Witt. Winfield stood his ground, citing his 10-5 rights, meaning he could not be traded without his approval after 10 years in the majors and 5 years with the same team. The situation became even more bizarre when Angels owner Gene Autry stepped in and offered Winfield a 3-year contract extension. Despite the drama, Winfield ended up playing for the Angels, hitting 19 home runs in 112 games for the rest of the 1990 season. Meanwhile, Steinbrenner's relationship with Winfield continued to spiral downward. In a desperate attempt to patch things up, Steinbrenner told Winfield he'd be welcome back to the Yankees if he won an arbitration case. But it was too little, too late. By then, Steinbrenner was already under investigation by MLB Commissioner Fay Vincent for his involvement with Howard Spira, a known gambler with mafia ties, whom Steinbrenner had paid $40,000 to dig up embarrassing information on Winfield. This scandal blew up, and Steinbrenner was banned from baseball for life. While the suspension only lasted 2 years, it was clear that his relationship with Winfield would never be repaired. In 1990, Winfield's career took another big turn when he was traded to the California Angels for pitcher Mike Witt. This change seemed to rejuvenate Winfield's career, and he soon found himself back on track. That same year, he was awarded the Sporting News Comeback Player of the Year award, a recognition of how well he had bounced back after his difficult years with the Yankees. But Winfield wasn't done yet. he had some remarkable moments left in his career. In June 1991, while playing against the Kansas City Royals, Winfield made history by hitting for the cycle in a single game. He went an incredible 5 for 5, a rare achievement in baseball, and it solidified his place as one of the game's true talents. He also reached a huge milestone that year, hitting his 400th career home run against the Minnesota Twins in his hometown, further proving that he still had plenty to offer. Even as he got older, Winfield wasn't slowing down. After his 40th birthday, he continued to be a productive player, and in December 1991, he signed with the Toronto Blue Jays. He joined the team as their designated hitter, but every now and then, he'd make one of his signature Winfieldian plays, taking the field and right. In the 1992 season, Winfield showed that he still had plenty of power left in his bat, hitting 290 with 26 home runs and 108 RBIs. He wasn't just a slugger, though. He was also a leader on the team, bringing his experience and calm presence to a young, talented Blue Jays squad. Winfield quickly became a fan favorite in Toronto. His leadership on and off the field was key in the Blue Jays' success that year. But one of the things that really stood out about him was his ability to connect with the fans. Toronto's crowd could sometimes be quiet, especially during the more tense moments of the season. Winfield didn't mind calling out the fans, and in August of 1992, he made a public plea for more noise. Winfield Wants Noise became a slogan that resonated with the Blue Jays fan base for the rest of the season. It even showed up on t-shirts, buttons, and signs throughout the stadium. Winfield's passion and enthusiasm were contagious, and the fans responded in kind. All of Winfield's leadership and contributions came to a head in the 1992 World Series, when the Blue Jays made it to the biggest stage in baseball. For Winfield, this was an opportunity for redemption. He had endured criticism for his postseason struggles earlier in his career, and now he was in position to prove himself once and for all. In Game 6 of the World Series, he became a hero for the Blue Jays. In the 11th inning, with the game tied, Winfield came to the plate and delivered a clutch 2-run double-off Atlanta Braves pitcher Charlie Leibrandt. That hit proved to be the game winner, giving the Blue Jays their first-ever World Series championship. At 41 years old, Winfield's performance in the World Series was extraordinary. He became just the third oldest player in MLB history to hit an extra base hit in the World Series, trailing only the legendary Pete Rose and Enos Slaughter. His clutch hit not only gave Toronto the title, but also cemented his legacy as one of the greats in baseball history. Mr. J, as Winfield was now affectionately called, had finally redeemed his postseason reputation. After the 1992 season, Dave Winfield entered free agency once again and decided to sign with his hometown team, the Minnesota Twins. This was a big move for Winfield, as it allowed him to finish his career playing in the state where he had grown up. In 1993, at the age of 41, Winfield was still productive on the field. He played 143 games for the Twins, mostly as their designated hitter, and finished the season with a respectable 271 batting average, along with 21 home runs. It was clear that while Winfield was getting older, he was still capable of contributing to a major league team. But the most memorable moment of that year came on September 16, 1993, when he collected his 3,000th career hit. It was a milestone few players ever reach, and Winfield did it with a single off Oakland Athletics' legendary closer, Dennis Eckersley. It was a moment that cemented Winfield's place in baseball history as one of the game's true greats. Just a few days after that historic achievement, however, baseball was thrown into turmoil with the start of the 1994 strike. The strike began on August 12th, and soon after, Winfield was traded to the Cleveland Indians at the trade waiver deadline on August 31st. However, the 1994 season was already in jeopardy, and 2 weeks later, the season was halted entirely. The strike ultimately led to the cancellation of the rest of the season, including the playoffs. Winfield never got a chance to suit up for the Indians, and to make things even more bizarre, no player was ever named in exchange for him in the trade. This created an unusual situation where executives from both teams, Minnesota and Cleveland, met up for a dinner to settle the deal. In an odd twist, Winfield became the only player in Major League history to be traded for a dinner. Official records still list the transaction as Winfield being sold to the Indians by the Twins, but the dinner remains a quirky piece of baseball lore. After the strike was over, Winfield was granted free agency again in October. By April 1995, Winfield had re-signed with the Cleveland Indians, but it wasn't exactly a smooth return to the field. Winfield had suffered a rotator cuff injury, which kept him on the disabled list for much of the season. He only played in 46 games that year and batted a mere .191, but he was part of a historic team. The Indians won their first pennant in 41 years that season, but Winfield, due to his injury, wasn't able to participate in the postseason. It was a tough way to finish his playing career, but it didn't take away from the incredible legacy he had already built. By 1996, Winfield decided it was time to retire from playing baseball. However, his career was far from over, as his induction into the Baseball Hall of Fame was right around the corner. In 2001, in his very first year of eligibility, Winfield was inducted into the Hall of Fame. He went in as a San Diego Padre, which was a bit of a surprise for some people, particularly New York Yankees owner George Steinbrenner. Winfield had spent a good portion of his career with the Yankees, and their relationship had been rocky at times, especially during the infamous public feud over his contract. However, Winfield wasn't bitter. When asked about Steinbrenner, he gave a diplomatic response, acknowledging that the Yankees owner had expressed regret over their past issues. "We're fine now. Things have changed," Winfield said, showing that time had healed those old wounds. Winfield's connection to San Diego remained strong, and in 1998, he was inducted into the San Diego Hall of Champions. This Hall of Fame honored San Diego's finest athletes, both on and off the field. Then in 1999, Winfield earned another major recognition when he was ranked number 94 on the Sporting News list of baseball's greatest players. He was also nominated for the Major League Baseball All-Century Team, which was a huge honor for any player. His career was legendary, and these accolades were just further proof of his greatness. In 2000, Winfield was inducted into the San Diego Padres Hall of Fame, and the following year, the Padres did something special to honor his contributions to the team. They retired his number, 31, and displayed it at Petco Park, the Padres' new ballpark. That number 31 jersey remains one of the most iconic symbols in Padres history, a tribute to a player who helped build the foundation for the team's success. Winfield's influence didn't stop with his playing career. In 2006, he was inducted into the College Baseball Hall of Fame in its inaugural class. His contributions to the game were recognized at every level, from his college days to his legendary major league career. Winfield's impact on the game of baseball was undeniable, and in 2010, the Big Ten Network named him as its number 15 ranked Big Ten Conference icon. It was just another feather in his cap, acknowledging his lasting legacy both on the field and in the broader sports world. One of the biggest honors of Winfield's post-playing career came in 2016, when the MLB All-Star Game, held in San Diego at Petco Park, was dedicated to him. Winfield had represented the Padres in the first ever All-Star Game in San Diego, so it was only fitting that the 2016 game would honor him as a way of celebrating his long and distinguished career. It was a moment of recognition that Winfield truly deserved, as he had given so much to the game. In 2024, Winfield returned to Fairbanks, Alaska, where it all began for him as a young player for the Alaska Gold Panthers of Fairbanks. On June 21st, he was part of a special event that unveiled a bronze statue in his honor near Groton Park, where he had played many years ago. To top it off, Winfield threw out the ceremonial first pitch for the annual Midnight Sun game, a beloved tradition in Fairbanks that celebrates baseball under the midnight sun. It was a full-circle moment for Winfield, who had come so far from his humble beginnings in Alaska. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching.